Hello, fellow detectives. Welcome to Unlocked, the official podcast for all things Nancy Drew by Her Interactive. I am your host, Tammy Tuckey, and this week we welcome Her Interactive Marketing Director, Jared Nieuwenhuis, to the show. Welcome, Jared.
Oh, thank you, Tammy. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know we've been, Jared and I, for listeners to know, Jared is awesome. He's the go-to guy at Her Interactive, especially for me. So he's been helping out with these podcasts behind the scenes. So thank you so much for all you do, Jared. You and Kalina are the dream team, as they say.
Well, thanks. That's not kind of you to say, but I appreciate the work that you've done around the Nancy Drew Unlocked podcast. I'm just thrilled with the way this has worked out, the great content, the great interviews. I'm really hoping that this is another way that the fans get a little insight into the company, into the games, and just into the Nancy Drew universe. So it was so great to welcome you to the family, and it's so great that you've just taken this on and have elevated the Nancy Drew brand and our outreach to our fans. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Even you guys putting this podcast in my hands, that was a huge, leap of faith, as they say. So I appreciate it. It's been 2 years.
Worked out really well.
I can't believe it's been 2 years since we kind of first started to talk about this, because it seems like podcasting is like the new way, the new age of reaching out to people, and then also, kind of having these conversations that are saved for generations. So I'm glad we could do it. It's like another way of, for me, because my connection's all through, childhood of playing the game. So for me, it's a little bit different. So what was your connection with Her Interactive before being a marketing director? Did you just read the books about Nancy, or did you play any of the games?
Prior to starting here, no, I had not. I'd always been aware of Her Interactive, just haven't been in the game industry for a number of years. So I knew of the company. I knew of Megan Geiser, who was the CEO at the time. I had known of her and the games and the great success and the rabid fan base. So I'd known of the company for quite some time. And then there became an opportunity where the Her Interactive approached me to help them with a couple of projects. I was doing some consulting at the time, so I was already familiar with the company, but not as familiar with the games. Now, in terms of the brand, I was very familiar with it and had seen the TV shows and knew about the movie that came out in 2007. So familiar with the brand, but not as much with the games, but certainly with the company.
Now, you say you did consulting work as a marketing director, as a marketing person. So you went for that specifically in college, correct? Like, what were some of the first couple of jobs you got right out of college?
Well, actually, I did not go to school necessarily for that. I did political science and international business was kind of my area of study. But I got into marketing very, very quickly right out of school. And the reason I was consulting was that I was the prior company that I was with. We had sold the company, so I took a little bit of time off and was doing some consulting in between gigs. So it worked out just perfectly. But I'd worked with companies like Sandlot Games, which some folks might be familiar with. We had a number of hit titles. So it's just a great space, very creative, great people, and it's been a fun ride to be a part of the gaming industry for so many years.
Basically, any type of political science really helps with the international affairs, especially with games, because you have to market them in a certain different way. It's like a new thing, because when I went to college, that was what we were learning about. I didn't realize that, in the U.S. we are marketed in a different way than maybe they are in China. So it's a totally different story, right? So how is that for the games? How is that for marketing? Planning and making sure that you can reach, just not just the United States and Canada.
Yeah. Well, I think it has more to do with the brand per se, and how that translates to different cultures and different countries and languages. Of course, one always has to have a sensitivity towards, unique cultures and languages and countries. But Nancy Drew is so interesting where the brand resonates with almost every English-speaking country, and then also in some non-English-speaking countries, especially Germany and Russia, where we have some fairly significant fan bases. The games and the books have always done quite well there, even though they might be under a different name or a slightly different version of Nancy Drew. It's still Nancy Drew, and like Sweden as well. It's I forget the name of the title, but or the brand as it's translated into Sweden, but or to Swedish, but it still does quite well. So it's one of those just iconic brand that just even non-English speaking countries where it still does quite well.
And since you work in the actual, company space, the headquarters up in Washington,
yeah.
Can you describe like a typical day of work? What is the 9-to-5 job for you there? And how do you kind of have these brainstorming sessions? Anything related to the games that are coming out or past games?
Well, no day is the same as another day. There's, we are, still relatively small. We have a great team that takes on a lot of different responsibilities, wears a lot of different hats, and the day to day will change depending upon when we're getting ready for a launch of a new title versus, when a title has been launched. And, for me, I kind of manage the entire marketing strategy and the marketing team. So that makes me responsible for, the consumer marketing, the customer acquisition, the retention, the social media, the marketing design and brand marketing. So every day looks a little bit different, as well as like different partnerships that we're always on the lookout for, and outreach marketing, which gets back to you. We're always looking for other ways to grow the brand, to grow our community, and to have a stronger relationship with our existing fan base.
It's always having that sense of you have to be prepared for whatever comes forward, because I know with technology, it's been progressing so quickly. So, Secrets Can Kill, the first Nancy Drew game, is far different from the latest Nancy Drew game in appeal and design.
Indeed.
And I know you guys are working towards a new goal of how can we reach to a younger audience, and that is always the most difficult portion of that. How can you reach a younger audience that all they use basically are the iPhones or the iPads? And then again, there's that worry. It's like, how are we going to stick to something like this? And then it moves forward even more with the technology. It's just another 5 years until who knows what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you do that? How do you think in that aspect?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, if there's one consistent in the gaming industry, it's change. And the industry moves very quickly, and it moves onto different platforms and different devices all the time. I mean, when I first joined, it was all about PC Mac, and then everybody needed to be on social. And after social, everybody needed to be on mobile devices. And since that time, that's been a growing interest for Her Interactive, as well as maintaining, and we always will, our PC Mac line of business. But the fact is that consumers more and more want to play on different devices, especially when they want to play on the go. Now, the challenge for us is that, sometimes for a game that is very immersive experience, playing for 5 minutes while you're waiting for the subway to show up is not probably the best way to enjoy a Nancy Drew mystery. It's fine if you wanted to play something that was some type of 3-match game, like Candy Crush. That's a game you can pick up for 5 minutes and put down. But a Nancy Drew game is a much more immersive experience where you need to kind of pay attention to what's going on and really kind of get into the story. So it's a very interesting challenge for us. But we're always looking at new technologies. As the fans know, we're making the big move to the Unity-based platform for our next title, Midnight in Salem. And that's going to help us actually be able to be on a lot of different platforms in a much easier way. Taking games from our existing proprietary platform and getting them onto different devices or different other platforms, be it, again, be it a mobile device, be it, Mac versus PC, be it for console, etc., just took so much heavy lifting and so much work. Developing a game in Unity will help us get onto all those different platforms and devices a lot quicker, and I think our fans will be very much appreciative of that once we're able to do that.
It's such a long process, and I'm not surprised at my end because, my mind has been more opened with different things that I've learned about from your company, from other companies, and learning the creative aspect of it, because this is a difficult thing for you guys because you have been doing so many different things for Mac and desktop. So now it's an additional this and that. It seems simple when you say it, but it's like a whole different thing. That's why when it takes some time, and I feel like I feel like the fans are starting to understand now that you guys are trying really hard. And honestly, for me, I'd rather you take longer and have a better product, a better way of playing, a better way of sharing it with other fans and friends, than rushing it. Why would you rush? You know what I mean? It doesn't, it hurts the quality, but go ahead.
That's a really good point, Tammy. We get as frustrated as our fans do. We would love to move faster, but quite frankly, we're moving as quickly as we can for the size of team that we have. And we would, when I see Facebook comments like, "Oh, I want to get this. Why can't I get this from the App Store?" Or "Why can't you release this on Xbox?" And as much as we'd love to do that, I don't think the fans always recognize that it does take time to do those things. It's not just as easy as calling up Microsoft and having the game available on Xbox the next day. So we hear the fans. We understand that they want to get Midnight in Salem quicker. They want to get our games on different platforms quicker. We understand that. We're doing the best we can. We want to see that happen too. It's just not as quickly as they would like to see it, and I get that. And I love their passion, because I tell you what, Tammy, we have. And I say this all the time, and I say it with all due sincerity, that we do have the best fans in the world. I have never come across so many passionate fans for the brand and for our games as we do have for Nancy Drew. We are truly blessed to be a part of this community. And I really do consider it a community, because so many people, in terms of how they interact with the brand, is a little bit different. They might be a book aficionado first, and then they get into the games or the movies. There's so many different aspects of the brand that people kind of latch onto first. But to be a part of this universe and be a part of this community is some of the finest moments of my career, and I just love them to death. And I always appreciate their being patient with us as we roll out a new game on a different platform. But I really do believe at the end of the day, they are going to be so happy with the end result.
I'm excited too. And to think that our fans are the ones that are really extremely smart, because, considering the games and how difficult the puzzles can be and becoming a detective, everybody puts on their thinking caps and is very intelligent. So, we're kind of lucky in that aspect too, because we don't need to dumb down conversations or the subject of the game or the mystery. You know what I mean? Like, it can be as immersive as a book.
Exactly right. No, I remember the first time I played one of our games, and I was like, wow, how old are the people that are playing this game? Because it's quite something once you actually get into them. And too often when I come across people that haven't played our games before, they just assume, oh, that's just a game for kids. I'm like, well, not really. We have
yes.
The vast majority of our fans are in their late 20s and 30s, and beyond that. They really enjoy it for the challenge. And these are not games that if you're a kid, between 6 and 10, for example, that you could really get through without getting some significant help from your sister or your mom or dad. These are very challenging games, and I think it's one of the hallmarks. It's one of our calling cards that we really don't dumb down our games. We enjoy making them challenging, and I really think the fans appreciate that as well. We don't spoon feed them or just make it just a clickable book. We really want them to think and find their path to find out who the culprit is, and that's something that we're really recognized for in the industry as well, as making those very smart games.
On that note, really quickly, I want to add that the Codes and Clues and the Nancy Drew dossier games, they were things that you guys tested out as different versions of the games that are maybe not as intricate, because a regular Nancy Drew game can take 3 days to complete if you're just going full force.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like those games, I appreciate them. I really like the Codes and Clues because I could show it to my younger little cousin. And then the dossier games, they always change because you don't know who the villain's going to be, which is different. And I thought that was fun. You know what I mean? So I like that aspect that you guys are having you're having these wonderful ideas and trying to apply them and see what works, what doesn't work, and then move forward with making, the best game possible. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And Codes and Clues was, specifically to address, well, there was a couple of things going on there, but if we were finding that a lot of our fans were kind of getting introduced to the game at a later age, and we really wanted something to not only introduce younger fans at a younger age to the brand, and then hopefully kind of graduate to our core set of games, but also we've been recognized so often for just like we discussed, creating smart games and creating games that really teach critical thinking skills, and we kind of took that beyond that to kind of get into the realm of STEM a little bit, and Codes and Clues, really teaching those foundational principles of coding, which has been really well received by educators and people in the space that really understand the importance of getting young kids, especially young girls, into coding at a young age. It's amazing when you get letters and feedback from parents and what the app has done for their child and getting them interested in STEM related topics. I mean, again, we've been hearing about this from our fans for so many years, and I remember that one of the first letters that we received and that I took a real strong interest in was one of our fans went on to be literally a rocket scientist at NASA. And she said, the only reason that I'm here is because I played Nancy Drew games growing up. And that was just such an amazing testament to our games, but also to our fans. But, it became clear to me that our games are preparing women for much bigger things than just, a 20-hour entertainment experience.
And what was the first game you did play? Because I forgot that you mentioned you played a game just to get a sense of what exactly the games were. What was the first game you got to play then?
Oh, boy. It probably was The Captive Curse, because that was the first game that I was a part of in terms of launching.
Okay.
So I believe that was my very first. But actually, you know what? I take that back. It was one of the dossier games first. That was my first game that I launched, but I think the dossier games are the ones I played first, and then I think I played Captive Curse after that because we were getting close to getting ready to launch that title. So
wow. So you've been at Her Interactive for over 10 years now, you think? Because I think the dossier was 2009, right?
Correct. No, I mean, that was the first game, but the first game that I launched was the Captive Curse. I've been with Her Interactive now for about 8 years.
Oh, okay. Wow. Almost. Yep. Wow, look at that. Almost 10 years thus far.
Oh, I know. I can't believe it. And the years have just flown by. And, it seems like just yesterday that I joined the company and met all the wonderful and talented people here. And, when I first joined, Little Jackalope was still an intern. And one of the best things I ever did was hire hire her full time to be a part of my marketing department.
So when you have the marketing cap on, let's say you're put on a hat for the day and it's marketing, and you are getting together a story for the actual game. How does marketing come into play with that story? Do you guys help pick the location for the game? Or do you help with certain puzzles that might be relevant or more popular that you guys have found through surveys and through feedback?
Well, you hit it on there, right on the head, actually, what you just said there. In marketing, the key role that we play in that is that we want to be the voice of the fan. So we don't drive the story per se. We leave that up to the writer and the game designer, et cetera. But we work very closely in terms of being the voice of the fan. So we will help with, how is a fan going to react to this? Will they like this or not? Or will they, might this be controversial? Or will they like this character? And if not, why not? So we really try and direct or massage the story based on what we've seen in terms of surveys and interactions on social and feedback through email, et cetera. We will really help massage and direct that story based on what we hear and interact with the fans. And I want our fans to know that we log every request. Via email, via Facebook, any of the social channels, even when we're meeting people at the Nancy Drew conventions. I mean, whenever we hear, requests or feedback, et cetera, we always log that information and kind of keep a database of that, because that will help us be a better company. That'll help us develop better games. And sometimes we can't do everything that fans would like us to do, but there are always constraints, either monetarily or otherwise. But we're always listening, and we're always trying to make our games better, and always taking our fans' input into consideration.
And you speak about the convention. The convention is an important part, I feel like, because you guys were at the last one. I'm so sorry I couldn't make it with you guys, but maybe for the next one. But how was it? Because I never gotten a chance to ask you personally.
No, it was great. It was a very well run, well organized a convention at beautiful Algonquin, Maine. But for me, the best part is just interacting with fans. Fans of differing, degrees, some that have just gotten into the books versus others that have read every book and have played every game. But just love hearing from them, what's your favorite game? What's your least favorite game? What's your favorite character? What was the best, background or city that one of our games took place in? And what would you like to see in a future game? So I just love having those one-on-one conversations with fans and really listening to what the games have meant to them, why they're a fan, and just hearing that feedback in terms of how we can get better, because we don't get better unless we get that feedback and take that and hopefully develop better games in the future.
Absolutely. And I feel like this leads into kind of one of my last questions. Where does Her Interactive go from here? Now, we know you guys are working on Midnight in Salem, and that is in progress, of course. How far along do you feel like you guys are now? Can you tell, or?
Oh, I can, but I'm
under secret things right now. Okay, that's fine.
Double secret probation, yeah.
That's good. That's fine. That's fine.
Progress is being made, and I can't wait till we can start sharing more information. I can't right now, but as soon as we can, I want all the fans to know that as soon as we can provide more information, we will, as soon as possible. But progress is being made, and again, I think the fans are going to be very happy with the end result once they see it.
And for everybody listening, I really have no clue about anything that's going on. I kind of purposely want to keep it that way because Colleen and Jared know what's going on. I'm kind of like, you know what? When you're ready, let's do an episode about it. So I'm just as in the dark I want to be because, again, I'm first off a fan, of course, and also a host. But, I'm very excited for you guys because I know that you've been working so desperately desperately hard to make this the best thing possible. And, I feel like people are appreciating it more because they understand that, to go forward, we're going to have to climb some mountains, and they're going to be a little bit longer than we always thought they were, originally thought they were going to be, but it's progress. And that's the only thing you can do, right?
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, and I look forward to the day that we can talk about that. And when we get close to launching that title, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And again, I just can't wait to share it with the fans.
But I have 5 locked clues that I need you to unlock, Jared. We do this with everybody who's a part of the company and also a fan. So our first one is first Nancy Drew game, but we already kind of covered that, right? So we'll say one of the dossier games. Second one, favorite Nancy Drew game.
Favorite. Ghost of Thornton Hall.
Ooh, that's a good one. Nobody's picked that one in a while.
And the dossier game that I first played, that was Lights, Camera, Curses.
Yes. The Egypt theme movie noir. I love that one too.
Yeah, that was great. I loved it.
Okay, number 3. Who are you going to call? Ned Nickerson, the Hardy Boys, or Bess and George?
I would go with Bess and George.
Number 4, what place from one of Nancy's past cases would you like to visit and see for yourself?
Oh, that's a tough one. I will say probably, boy, I don't know if I'll go back to Ghost of Thornton Hall in there, but probably, actually, no, let's say Venice.
And then finally, what character besides Nancy and her friends do you think you would get along with if you met them in person?
Oh, man, that's tough. I'm going to say Professor Hotchkiss. Just because I just love her irreverent, style and the offbeat comments. I just fell in love with that character very early on. Sunny June would be my next, but Professor Hotchkiss would be at top of the list.
She's my favorite, too. Absolutely. Yeah. The drumsticks. She's a foodie. She loves history. Like, totally up my alley of somebody I want to hang out with,
Exactly.
And finally, we finished. We unlocked all the clues. And now my final question for you is if you could describe your experience working with Her Interactive and being a part of the Nancy Drew universe using one word, what would that be?
Inspiring.